listening to The Quest, Advancing the Art of Role-Playing, the show where we talk about role-playing in all of its forms, from tabletop to LARP and even cosplay. This is where we offer tips and tricks to role-players, new and old, hero or GM, and where we share our passion for role-playing and collaborative storytelling with you. The Quest is a proud member of the Dancing Giraffe Productions Network. You can learn more about Dancing Giraffe Productions at dancinggiraffe.net. And is brought to you in part by Geek Fan Expo, uniting geeks September 5th, 6th, and 7th, 2014 at the Doubletree Hotel in Dearborn, Michigan. You can find GFX on the web at www.geekfanexpo.com or on Facebook and Twitter at Geek Fan Expo. Additional funding for the show is provided by MI Techmedic, that's mitechmedic.com. Brown Coat Convention Photography on Facebook at Brown Coat Photography and on Twitter at Brown Coat Photo. And by the support of listeners like you. You can follow me, your host, on Twitter and Facebook at IRNerdivore, or you can email the show at thequest@dancinggiraffe.net. And now, thank you for joining us on The Quest. Hello and welcome to episode number 11 of The Quest. Now, this episode was originally going to be a GM-heavy episode, but we have a slight change of plans today, and we're going to be talking about interplayer relationships. Before we get to that, let's go ahead and do the news.
From HollywoodReporter.com, 2005 Serenity brought the story of Joss Whedon's Firefly to an end. Kind of. Following up on a number of teases, Dark Horse Comics has confirmed that it will be launching a new Serenity comic that takes place following the movie, with art by Buffy the Vampire Slayer artist Georges Jeantet. Comic Book Resources broke the news, explaining that when the series opens, the remaining crew of the Serenity will have to deal with the fallout of their actions. With River Tam in the co-pilot chair and a very pregnant Zoe reeling from the death of her husband Wash, Mal is finding himself and his ship in greater danger than ever. If this were picking up where Firefly ended, I'd already be in my bunk. I'm not looking forward to this.
No, it's a disaster.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So I don't know. I
River,
can't.
with River in the co-pilot seat.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
screw
not.
that.
It's not even that bothers me. It's that River is still involved at all because
she
she's
does
now.
everything. She
Well,
is a genius. She kills everything. She can fly the ship.
It makes sense that the Buffy the Vampire Slayer artist is doing this now because he's basically just doing Buffy in space.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Say Buffy, the Reaver Slayer, and her amazing friends.
Yeah, and her somewhat less than amazing friends.
From TabletopGamingNews.com, Mike Adams, an OCGG founder, really wanted a particular piece of audio for use in his games, the sound of the ever-popular Eye Monster, or for you D&D fans, Beholders. We pulled our money and started to source our first ever Monsterscape, 2 one-minute-long audio pieces containing the sounds of this monstrous creature, one during a passive state and one during combat. It will also feature sounds of the city, underground lake city, ice cavern soundscape, dark elves, and more. I was on the Kickstarter today, checking out their progress. With 3 days left on their Kickstarter, they have over $12,000 donated. Their goal was $5,000.
Nice. You gotta like it when the Kickstarters go so far over that it's,
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
seen a couple of the ones that were the Mediascape type things where it's just soundtracks for gaming and whatnot,
Yeah.
and they're neat. I don't foresee. I mean, I'm starting to use music. I mean, for the Star Wars game, I'm using music in the background now, but I don't really. It takes so long and it's so distracting to really get the sounds right and everything else. Unless you've really got them queued up and know exactly what you're going to do with just a quick button to hit them,
Right.
But otherwise, it's like, oh well, let me find this soundtrack real quick, this audio bit real quick, and let me do this, and I don't know.
Yeah, and sometimes our games go so far off track, you never know what's actually going to happen.
Yeah, I've actually been trying to gauge the reactions to what's going on in the game to what music is currently playing. I get a lot of cantina scenes.
Yeah. A related story, also from Tabletop Gaming News, Sirenscape is an easy-to-use app that adds evocative ambient background sound and a movie-like soundtrack to your gaming experience, conjuring every aural landscape imaginable, from ethereal forests or dank, vermin-filled dungeons to the spooky depths of the underworld. Sirenscape uses editable and adaptable libraries of sound files, sound sets, to improvise soundscapes, thus giving you a great degree of control over what you're hearing while requiring almost no interaction from the user while it runs. Sirenscape sounds amazing.
Yeah, I think that's actually the one I was thinking of. So.
Yeah, I was looking at the website on that today too. It looks really, really neat.
Yeah, they're cool. There's one for the Android too.
Yeah.
That is, I guess, is a downloadable function, but I think it's like $10 or something like that. So anyway, that's great news, and I guess we'll. Anybody got any other news they want to bring up? No? All right. I have like 4 other news articles that I'm not going to bother bringing up till the next show. So, all right, that is, yeah. So, I totally forgot what I was going to do.
Introductions.
All right. Yeah, introductions. So, yeah, let's start the show. So, all right. We were supposed to do, as I said before, this was going to be a GM heavy episode called The Art of Storytelling. But circumstances have prevented that from happening this week, so we're going to go ahead and deal with a later episode we wanted to do called Dealing with Interplayer Relationships. This should be a pretty good one, and I hope. I said about all of them, and you've heard them. So.
They're good. We're awesome. They're just highly critical.
Yeah, they're just good. Some of them are actually, I think, pretty good.
Yeah.
Anyway, today I am joined by Brandon.
Hello.
Laura.
Hello.
And Evelyn.
Hello.
So let's start out with talking about interpersonal relationships between PCs and NPCs, and really other PCs. What is your favorite personal interaction between PCs and NPCs as far as ongoing relationships?
I really liked. I had fun with in Dave's 7th Sea game. My character had a fun. What's that?
I said, who was your character?
My character?
What was the character's name?
No. Alicia de Soldano del Soldano Castillo. No. Alicia Aldana de Soldano del Castillo. That's the one.
Okay.
Anyways, derailing my train of thought here.
Sorry.
Allie got involved with the pirate. What was his name?
Elende.
Yeah, and that was a fun just. I just remember I really enjoyed having that element and playing with that because he was an NPC, but he was a pretty major NPC.
Yeah.
So.
What kind of relationship was it?
It was a romantic relationship.
Yeah. Freaky deaky. Brandon?
Mine probably kind of from the various relationships going from that same 7th Sea game where I was playing Sancho Zepeda de Soldano del Castillo. And
show off.
See, it's just the only reason he wanted to do this episode is because he wanted to say his name again.
But I had a few interpersonal relationships with the other characters that were players between Allie and Heidi was playing an Avalonian glamour sorceress, and Jeanette was playing her Eisen warrior, and I was playing a Castilian priest swordsman. And if you know anything about that game, it's the Castilian church. Well, it's not just the Castilian church, but the church is kind of like the Spanish
right, the
Inquisition. There's a sect of the church. And so even the other parts of the church that are not, excuse me, actually part of the Inquisition are still supposed to look down on sorcery. And Allie was turned out to be a Fuego,
which
fire
is pretty
sorcerer.
much the worst.
Yeah, because she controls fire and the Inquisition can't burn her.
Right.
and
yeah, the Inquisition is pretty much the worst magic caster you can play for that in that particular situation.
There's also no rules for playing.
That was a fun relationship.
There are
too.
rules in the
one of the expansion.
Yeah. I think it's the Castilla
Let's say my
Castillo.
I know I made a.
I know there were.
Nation
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it must have been because I made a Castilian Inquisition priest who was a El Fuego caster who was hiding out amongst them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that whole game was full of fun stuff, relationship type stuff.
It was awesome because we're going through the city and you guys are running from the bad guys. So it's the El Fuego caster, the glamour sorceress, and I think the Eisen warrior going, and we got separated. So you're, I think, racing through the streets on this carriage, and I'm a priest, hop on a horse, and I'm chasing you guys through as the bad guys are chasing all of us. So there goes this cart full of sorcerers and people, and then there's the priest, and then there's all these other guys come chasing. It was just a lot of fun. And
It was.
And, like the time when we were on the ship, I can't remember exactly what ended up happening, or we were on one ship and we were getting rescued or attacked, and we were switching over to the other ship, and Elinde jumped down, he grabs you and pulls you into his arms, and he slices the rope and flinging up into the air and down to the other ship. And I look over, and Jeanette's playing her buff Eisen warrior woman in the armor, and I look over and she's like, "No, I don't think so." So I run over, throw myself into her arms, hand her the rope, and then slice the rope. So she's carrying me up.
Yeah, I remember that. That was awesome.
And she was like, "That's okay." And I was like, "Slice the rope," and we both go flying up.
Yeah, that whole game was full of good, interesting.
The only part of the game,
characters.
the only part of Dave's game I was part of, I had Captain Jack for a little while.
Yeah.
And I remember we got trapped in a theater, I think, and we went backstage, whatever, and I made everybody dress up in women's clothing and escape through the stage.
I don't think I was there for that. I think I came in just after you ended up not being able to play anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, I liked that game because my character came in not knowing that she was El Fuego. Like that was kind of I started learning about my powers during the role playing, and Heidi's character ended up being sort of my mentor kind of situation. While at the same time, we were trying to keep a secret from Brandon's character because I was an El Fuego and he was a priest. And that was a lot of fun. That was a fun game.
Yeah. Evelyn?
That's why I like to prep beforehand, because my horrible memory is trying really hard to remember something, anything. And thoroughly blanking.
There was that 7C game where you were playing
The Vodachi.
the Vodachi Strega, whatever, the Fate Witch.
Which I barely remember.
I think that
game.
was Jeanette was running that
Yeah.
game, and I was playing in that one the Eisen
Right.
warrior
Gerhard.
who was Gerhard Siegfried Walker.
I had Sebastian de Charus de Montagne for that one.
And you had the pet spider that you would wear on your bodice.
Yep.
And what was that?
It's really sad that you remember more about my
It's a
character
good place
than
for
I do.
stabbing. Brandon has a crazy memory.
For a lot of random trivial,
Right.
not important stuff. But anyways, we were pretending to be married, and I can't remember what preceded it. Like we were in town. I think it was something to do with the Inquisition.
Yeah, I think so.
We were in a little town in Castillo, and we were pretending to be married. And the other members of the group, Dave was playing a Castilian priest that time, and
Dave, if you're listening to this, you got to get on that.
yeah, and
That's gonna happen.
but I don't know if they were whipped up by the Inquisition or whatever, but a bunch of the mob gathered outside the inn and were like, "Bring out the foreigners," and stuff like that, and they took her jabs. And I was thinking like, okay, how can we get out of this? And like, all right, Dave, you're Castilian, so you go out and sneak out the side and come around and join the angry mob, and you can be like, yeah, bring out the foreigners, and then that way you'll be able to slip away in the crowd later on, and we'll make a break for it, this or that. And Dave misunderstood me and thought that I meant I was going to sneak out with my character, and my character being the Eisen, tall,
Not very sneaky.
not very sneaky character.
Obviously a foreigner.
Obviously a foreigner. And the Eisen are basically
The Aryan
all the
race.
all the nations of 7C are based on nations of Europe.
Right.
So the Eisen are like the Germans.
Right. So
So-
they're all in various states of the late Renaissance, early. I don't know what that would be, but swashbuckling era, and
Right.
it's various stages of, because the Eisens are actually really more like late Germanic.
But yeah, he thought I was gonna go out with my character and be like, "Ja, bring out the foreigners."
Quick, get to the chopper!
There was just so many good stuff from that game. Like
Yeah.
the one game where there were the women who were riding the carriage, and bandits tried lighting the carriage on fire, and we're gonna kill them. And I think it was something with Villanova's wife. But I had my great big Zweihander, and I'm like, okay, well, these bastards are gonna try killing these women, so you know what, they don't deserve to live. So I get my sword and I start swinging it, and the priest is like, no, and I'm just like, cleave the guy in half. And he's like, why did you do that? And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, Father, but the sword was already here. It was all momentum at that point.
Yeah. You know, 7th Sea does tend to lend itself better towards, well, not better, I should say, but very well towards the interplayer relationship kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't think anything we just talked about was interplayer relationship so much as just events that happened, but
Some of it was. We started out with the
Yeah.
interplayer relationship stuff.
yeah,
Interactions with the NPCs.
yeah. The depth of relationships that I've had in some of the games that we've done. I mean, there's been we've talked about the old Star Wars game. You know, the getting the overly, I don't want overly, but getting very connected to the NPCs in the Squad of Marines games. Some good interaction there.
Yeah.
There's been some good stuff too. I think in the
L5R.
in the L5R game, yeah, the stuff
Yeah.
between you and your wife was pretty decent. I think I told the story of my favorite interaction, interplayer relationship with James Gaspard's
Yeah.
pirate captain lady that he was playing. Oh god, that was so much. It was so much fun. But I mean, as far as PC and as far as interrelationships between PCs goes, I mean, it's, you know, describe some of the better interactions you've had as far as relationships with PCs that you've had. The example would be for me, more recently anyway, would be Tion Fell, my Jedi character for Derek's Star Wars game, and Laura's your character that was who I don't remember anything about really, other than we were starting to form a bond that was almost. I was thinking it was almost brother sister kind of bond. I thought it was
Yeah.
kind of fun.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
kind of one of those weird, like, Amidala to Anakin kind of
yeah.
situations, maybe.
Well, you weren't that much older than me.
Yeah,
know.
I don't think it was anywhere near that creepy.
No.
Yeah. No, Tion was like
No, could've
15.
gone there,
It was
though.
like 14 or 15. It wasn't like he was 6 and she was 20.
Yeah, that's what I said. Not anywhere near that creepy.
Yeah,
That's true.
George's quality writing.
Yeah. Oh, I was kind of developing.
The only movie Joss Whedon could have written better.
No.
Ouch. Ouch. I was kind of developing, or at least I thought we were almost getting there, where like a brother relationship with
Yeah.
our two characters, because we had the background where your Jedi instructor was my character's mother,
Right.
and I was a Mandalorian who, the Mandalorian, my father had met my mother, and they both wore armor because it was
Because they were
something with
Mandalorians.
Yeah, it's what you do.
well, the
Mandalorians
Mandalorians
are
wear
actually
armor, but
just
like you do.
the Mandalorians have always been interested in the Jedi powers
Right.
and how that makes people more formidable. And my mother's was from some sect where they utilize armor and they imbue it with force power and stuff like that. So they ended up meeting, and one thing kind of led to another, and I was born, and my father took me along with him, but she went to the Jedi Temple and started raising students, so...
My duodenum. I doubt the thing's going to pick it up, but man, my stomach all of a sudden.
I'm super hungry too, and my stomach's been growling over here, and I'm just thinking, man, it's gonna get loud enough that you're gonna hear it on the microphone.
I feel like I'm hearing it through here.
It's possible. That's possible. All I've had to eat in the last, I don't know, probably. Well, I had Chinese food late last night, but then I woke up this morning with a pretty bad headache, so I drank a lot of water and like 5 Excedrin, and then I had some Pop-Tarts. So I had a stoner breakfast. I had the hangover breakfast.
No, the hangover breakfast is like really greasy eggs and bacon. And
Yeah, that's true.
you punish your stomach into submission.
Usually mine is my hangover mornings are lie on the floor of the vehicle on the way back to wherever it is we're coming from. Driving back from Chicago after ASEN. All right. Anyway, other interplay relationships that we've had. I know that the current Star Wars game we've got, I think there's been some decent interplay between characters. I had the PCs, which are currently sitting on the table, plus Derek, and I was playing an NPC called Lannis, who is
Awesome.
I'm so mad at that stupid chiss.
So the idea was this character is they find him in prison, in the prison that they're in, because they get captured. It's the way things happen in Star Wars.
That's what we do. It's
It's
what
like-
we do best.
It's like Seventh Sea with Jedi in space.
Yep.
So it's
Seventh Sea in
in space and the world of tomorrow. Anyways, they find him in prison. They help him escape. He helps them escape. They take him on board the ship and they travel around a little while until they get, as far as they can tell, betrayed by him and captured again a few episodes later. And I thought the interplay was pretty good there because it seemed like the players were just starting to like him enough that it was time to have him betray them. I turned that thing off.
Clearly you are wrong. Yeah, Rhea really, really liked him. And maybe that's where it's coming from.
Maybe.
Rhea really liked Lannis until he quote unquote betrayed us. And Evelyn knows that there's more to it. Rhea is so hurt right now that she can't see beyond the fact that you walked up with these troopers and took us captive,
Right.
and now I hate you.
Well, Rhea defended him to the Jedi even a couple of times.
I thought there were
beforehand.
times that Kellis and I were just
Yeah.
going to get into it. I thought that was going to go really poorly for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the dynamic of that group right now. You've got 2 smugglers, a Jedi, and two smugglers, technically 2 Jedi, who I'm doing a poor job of running, and a Republic trooper, and set in the old Republic era, using the Edge of the Empire system because that's what we wanted to play.
Mhm.
And despite the fact that I think they did a bad job of writing, I think they did a fantastic job of writing the book. I think they sold me as a fan a little bit short by not including more information so I could choose whatever game I wanted to play. But that said, before people get mad about that, because I've gotten some feedback on Google Plus about talking about that, because I was talking to people the other day. Somebody asked if they're coming from D&D and they want to get into Star Wars, and they asked if they should use the Saga system or not because it's D20, or if they should go back and use D6 or the new ETOH.
D6 or
Not ETOH. ETOE.
Yeah.
ETOH is drinking.
Yeah.
So it makes gaming interesting.
We use that too.
Yeah. But I told him that, I gave him a breakdown of all 3 systems, basically, is the way I saw it. And, having experience with all 3 systems and owning books for, at one time I owned books for all 3 systems. Now I don't own anything for Saga. But I told him that the D6 system is very good, but it's a little dated. And that the Saga system is really not bad, but it doesn't feel like Star Wars. It just feels like D&D skinned with the Star Wars stuff. And that the Edge of the Empire stuff is actually really, really good. It feels very Star Wars. It's very cinematic. And it's actually worthy of being a successor to the West End game system. And I explained that I see everything. I see the entire extended universe. I watch the Star Wars movies, everything with the haze of the role-playing game, the West End games role-playing game, because that's where I got into the EU. It's everything for me. And a couple of guys came back and said that I had no idea what I was talking about. That West End Games was one of the most revolutionary systems for its day. And my only response was, yeah, its day was 25 years ago.
Seriously.
It was more than that even, because the first edition of West End Games came out in 1987. That game is
Yeah.
older than
Yeah.
most people who play Star Wars.
Yeah.
So, and it's like, yes, D6 is still a very good system. If you want to play D6, you're still going to have a lot of fun with it. It's still going to be a great game. If you don't like massive pools of dice, but you still want to maintain that feeling, go with the Edge of the Empire system and use the West End Games books as source material. It's not hard to convert the stuff once you figure out the idea of what they're going for in the ETOE books, the Fantasy Flight books, EOT, the FFG books.
Edge of the Empire.
What'd I say? ET?
EOTE, right?
Yeah,
You put them in the wrong order.
whatever.
Fail.
FFG. In the FFG system, Fantasy Flight Games, in their version of the system, everything is there. If you, and that's not, I shouldn't say that. It's not there because the Jedi stuff isn't there, and it's really set. It's built for the setting they're going for, and it's done well for that. And once you
Unfortunately, though, for people like us who have
Right.
been so immersed in Star Wars stuff for so long, it's kind of like it's missing all this stuff.
yeah,
It
it's,
doesn't seem like it's been. Well, I don't know. I guess I don't know how
Well,
much work you've put into it, but it doesn't
quite a
seem
bit.
like it's like we've been able to adapt it pretty successfully.
yeah. If you once you get the basic understanding of what they're going for as far as the feel of the system
Right.
goes, it's really not that hard to convert stuff. And
Plus, aren't they?
there's a lot
like,
of really good fan made material out there that I've been using for the Jedi
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really well made.
Aren't they
So,
planning on expanding
Yes.
more? I mean, that's
yeah,
Yeah. This is just the intro
it's
to the system.
yeah, it's kind
setting.
of they're. I think they did it personally because I think they're looking for a little bit more money. Because there's not a lot of money in role playing games anymore. It's not like it was back in the 80s and early 90s and stuff. It's a hard industry to make money at,
Yeah.
which
Well,
is I think
especially with the increase in price in games.
yeah.
In books.
Well, I think that's got to. I think everything is print on demand now, which is why
Yeah.
everything's so much more expensive. Because print on demand is almost twice what it normally would cost to print, but you don't have backlogs of books that are you
Sitting
don't have
about.
Right.
you don't have all your money tied up in inventory.
Yeah.
Which is what killed companies like West End Games. Well, that and just a lot of bad writing and not keeping up on their licenses. But you look at the way they're doing it, they're releasing the 3 core books. And it's going to be Edge of the Empire, Age of Rebellion, and then Force and Destiny. And you can get the beta for Age of Rebellion now, and it adds a lot of material. Like it doesn't add any new rules really. A couple of new talent trees and stuff like that, and some new ships and whatnot. But essentially, the rules are the same. But it adds a lot more of the feel of the game. And I think when Force and Destiny comes out, you'll have everything you need from the Jedi side of things.
Right.
And then you can, if you're smart enough, and I shouldn't say smart enough, if you're dedicated enough, you can easily convert it to any system, any setting you want. But the books really are being designed for the settings that they're in. You know, they're giving you material, they're presenting material that is for the setting time frame that they want you to be in.
Right.
Which L5R did too, so I can't really say that I have a problem with that. For Star Wars, I really wanted more. I wanted a more generic type of setting that I could run anything that I wanted anytime I wanted.
L5R also wasn't a previously established.
It was,
Was it?
yeah, card game. The
Oh.
card game before the RPG.
I guess I've never played the card game. I guess I knew there was a card game.
Yeah. The card game came before the RPG. Then the RPG came along, first edition, and that was set at the same time as the card game or the completion thereof, and it basically leads up to the Scorpion Clan coup, which there's some really good storytelling to be done in that. And that's basically where I read my first campaign, was that era. And then it goes into second edition, which is the Time of Void stuff, and is a horrible, horrible edition of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Also, when the story, I think, starts to break down.
Isn't that because they
It
let
was-
the winners of the card game decide how things
Yeah.
are going to go in the RPG?
Largely, yeah. If you won a tournament in the card game, you got to choose. I don't know if it was still choose then or not, but it is now. You can choose a course, and then the writers of the thing will write it for you. And at the time, I think it was actually you got to determine. It was either a bigger list of things, or you just got to say something would happen, and that's the way it was. But now it's if you win one of the, I think it's the big tournament, like they do one a year, you get to determine from a list of things what happens in the situation and move on from there. It's kind of neat.
That's kind of cool.
It is kinda
The
cool,
problem is the story gets really screwed up that way.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I think what you're talking about is like the way they do it now is better because they have a set thing of, okay, these things could go this way and it'll
Yeah.
be still written well, whereas before
Yeah.
it was like
Choose your own adventure.
choose this
Right.
stuff and then you get this guy who's like, oh well, it'll be really cool if we do this, and then no, it's not.
It
Yeah,
works
that-
well within individual gaming groups, not when you're building an RPG system.
Well, I think they had bad writers for a while too.
That could be.
They gave up a lot of the control of the system, a lot of the control of the content to Wizards of the Coast around second edition. They got it back for third edition. Third edition was pretty decent. Fourth edition is fantastic, and fourth edition I like because it's generic. It's the main book is not a specific setting, and it's designed in such a way that you can get the setting for everything. And it has allowed me as a GM to go back and run some stories that I had never really considered running before, because there's a lot more suggestions and a lot more stuff, and there's a lot more depth to the world. That's something I really hoped they had done in Star Wars. I think it's a good method to do. But you look at the newer RPG systems, and it's either a lot of books, or it's a decent number of books that are expensive and then have proprietary dice and cards, which is what Pathfinder's doing the cards thing. Star Wars is doing the dice and cards thing, and so on and so forth. There are cards. Yeah, there are talent tree cards. That give you
Nice.
basically all your information and stuff. But
like the ones that we have printed.
kind of, except they're actual like deck of cards.
Oh,
There's one. I think there's some for equipment too. I don't remember if they've done equipment yet or not, but they're interesting. I don't foresee spending the extra money on them. You already got to spend what $15 for a set of dice, and then you
60 for
need
the book,
6 or 7
and-
more
yeah.
dice for, and then $60 for a book, and then there's other books that are, $20 for the beta book, 29 for the beta book if you don't buy it from the site that I bought mine from, which I'll put a link to. I don't think they have many left because they only had 300 to start with, and I know that by the time the book was released, they'd already sold over 150. So, but I think that there's some good. It allows for some good interplay, even in the way that the system is right now, and the limitations that we've got system-wise, because it leaves a lot more open to narration. And I think narration really helps with the interplay. There's a lot less rule lawyering, and not that we're really doing a lot of that anyways anymore. As older players, we do a lot less of that than we used to.
yeah. I think as older players, we also have the experience and imagination to kind of make up the rules on the fly.
Yeah. And we kind of jumped into gaming too into the Star Wars game really without knowing the rules very
Yeah.
solidly. We only had one copy of the book, and I was trying to read through it, but I didn't get through it really. We made characters having barely read the books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and we've corrected some of our mistakes as far as the rules go. We've corrected the way auto fire worked,
The way the two weapons.
the way 2-weapon
Mhm.
fighting works, which we're using the way the system does it, as opposed to the way we thought we read it the first time.
Yeah.
But I think it's led to some really good interactions because the narration level has been much higher for this game than it has been for other games that have been running recently. And I think that's really good, other than the online Pathfinder game, which is pretty good. But that one's a little bit limited in the narration just because of the fact that I can't talk when other people are talking because it's
Right.
all online. And we've got the maps and stuff through the virtual tabletop, which is nice. But I think that some of the good storytelling that we've gotten recently, especially the last gaming session, I thought was really good as far as narration went and as far as some of the interaction went, because we had the bar scene, they were talking to the Hutt and everything else, and I thought that was some good interaction. The Hutt needed to be more of a douche because that's what Hutts are, but I think I pulled it off okay considering. And then there was the scene with the guy who got brought in and thrown in the pit with the 2 Wookiee gladiators,
Yeah.
Right.
which was all narration. There was nothing to it. It was just narration, and I thought that had some good. I think from the looks on the players' faces at the time, I think I got my point across with that scene. So that was pretty good, and I thought that was a good relationship. And I think the players are starting to gel more as a cohesive group. I think the interplay between the ship smuggler captain, which is Evelyn Rhea, and Derek, who's playing Jedi apprentice named Kellis. I think that's been really good, especially now that I've given it an actually good reason why the master isn't overly involved.
Yeah.
Before it's just been he's just kind of been sitting back because I don't want to make him the forefront, and I really have no personality for him. It's really I did not put
He's
a lot
just
of
a
thought.
tool.
Yeah, I need the intent was to have more one-on-one interaction between Derek and the master, so I could get more of that feel together and instruct Derek in how I wanted him to play his Jedi character.
Right.
But we haven't had time for it.
Yeah.
The time for for gaming has been very limited in the last couple of weeks. So
Yeah, I know. I left. I don't know about everybody else, but I left Thursday session with hardcore gaming blue balls. I haven't been able to get the game out of my head. Rewriting my character history helped a little bit, but I've got like 3 different conversations that I need to have with people, 2 PCs and 1 NPC, and we quit on Thursday. I'm like, no, I need to do more. Stop that. Sit back down.
That's part of that. It's probably because you do that fun like
Yeah.
cliffhanger in there.
Yeah, that was part of it. But I've got a conversation I need to have with Ava and one with Kellis that I'd been kind of mulling over as everybody else was doing their interactions, and I was, milling about in the cantina trying to look like I was enjoying myself and, not offend the HUD.
Yeah.
That, I was building like, and then we quit, and I'm like, but shit,
I want to do more.
no. So I'm really excited for tomorrow.
Yeah.
yeah. Hopefully we can actually game tomorrow. I do have some stuff that might come up tomorrow. That
I will light it on fire.
it's actually for the fire department, so it might be an issue.
What about
I'll
about
light the
tonight?
fire department on fire.
What's
That's
that?
okay.
I said, what about tonight?
If we don't
Instead of
record, if we don't
Oh,
record a
Brandon,
second
yeah,
episode,
Brandon.
oh yeah. He can,
It's your D&D
Loser.
game.
he can
It's
skip
them.
the game.
If you guys listen,
the-
don't take it personally.
I haven't told him about it yet, so. But,
About the podcast,
yeah.
Tell them
Oh,
about
tell
6
them.
weeks after this episode.
Right.
After this
Yeah.
episode's recorded, if you skip their gaming session. All right, so identifying when you have a power struggle within your group is our next phase on this one. And I think that's a really important one because sometimes it does happen. A good example of that, I think, I was going to do, let's go with throwback episode, a throwback bit. Derek and Brandon played basically polar opposite paladins in a group that I ran one time. And to say that there was a power struggle might have been understating it a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit.
So describe that for us, Brendan, and how it affected the way you played your character.
Well, it was kind of hard because I started playing the paladin. I don't remember if you had decided to have this other thing go on or what, but Derek decided to make the anti-paladin or paladin for the. I don't know if he just decided that was a good idea, and you were like, okay, whatever.
He decided to do it. I wanted to play. He wanted to play the game, so I'm like, all right, play what you want to play. He made an anti-paladin, and I'm like, oh.
So instead of just like having us duke it out first thing to see, who's gonna win and survive or whatever, was there really not anyone else playing the game at that point?
It was a lot of people coming and going at that
Yeah.
point.
Because you were like, well, okay, so there's some greater, bigger threat, and the gods of the pantheons are having powwow time and saying we have to work together even though we're opposite alignments and whatever. Therefore, our followers have to work together, so you guys have to play nice.
Suck it up, bitches.
So instead of just killing each other off, we, tried to work together, and sometimes it worked out, and sometimes not so much. There were, awesomely enough, 2 times where Derek just finally got fed up with whatever I was doing, being too goody or whatever. So he decided he was going to try to kill me, and Derek was. At the time, using a heavy crossbow, I believe,
Yep.
and we were using the old second edition D20, called shots.
Right.
So
The
Yeah.
players, the expanded stuff for the whatever books those
so
are. Skills and powers.
Derek's like, all right, and we'd fought in other stuff like a ogre mage or whatever, and he's like, all right, called shot to the head. Oh, natural 20. Kill that thing, okay. And
He was basically getting divine rolls every time he needed to get a called shot. It was crazy. He would
it
kill.
was-
He was killing stuff that just should not have. There should have been a problem for the 2 of them to fight in one shot, and some of that might have been bad storytelling on my part, but it just made sense the way things were going.
Yeah, and so he's like, all right, that's it, and I'm gonna shoot that fucker. So he gets his crossbow, and I'm like,
You were facing the other way.
yeah,
You were talking to somebody.
I was facing the other way, and I'm like, oh shit, this is bad.
Derek rides up behind him, points the crossbow at his head, called shot to the head. Natural 1. It's like divine intervention.
Like, oh, okay. Oh, the string snaps. Like, think. What was that? I know that sound. Like, okay, I'm done.
So that was some good interaction, that kind of stuff. I liked some of the definitive power struggle there. Can you think of any other instances, Laura, in any games you've played where there was a definitive power struggle in the game between PCs?
I was thinking about it, and I don't know if I can think of any particular instances. The closest thing I can think of was for me really was the zombie game. Like,
Sure.
I was playing the character that was kinda supposed to be the character. I mean, like, I was supposed to sort of be taking charge.
Yeah, you were the Rick character.
Yeah, but there were other characters that were hard to, control and everything, and
Right.
I think part of the problem there was that I as a player, didn't really know how to handle it because I was playing
Right.
a character that was kind of out of my realm of knowledge. And
of your
unfortunately, there were a couple of players there whose realm of knowledge it was, which made it even more difficult.
There was one player there whose realm
Yeah,
it
well, yeah.
was, and the other one who thought it was his. It's difficult to play a military character unless you have an interest in the military or a background in the military. And you were playing a military special forces sniper type of character,
Right.
and Nick being in the game, Nick being not special forces, but having spent 10 years in the military as a corpsman.
Yeah, something like that.
He knew his stuff.
Yeah.
So it did make for, there was a lot of power struggles in that
Although
game.
I did enjoy the game there, but there
Yeah.
were definitely
I think that game
some
was a lot of fun. I
challenges.
kind of want to run it again. I want to run it again, not necessarily with a different group, but with a more defined
Select
group. less coming and going of people
Yeah.
too, because that was one of the problems with that group, is that there was a lot of hit or miss who was going to play what week and whatnot. There was some power struggles in that game though, because there was the doctor who was struggling to maintain.
there was a lot of really, now that I think about it,
there was a lot of
power
really
struggle
good
between
player
a lot of different
interaction in
people.
that game. Yeah, that game was almost entirely character interaction though, because the zombies,
Yeah.
much like it was based obviously on the Walking Dead. And the intention of the game was to have that feel where it's not really about the zombies. It's about the people surviving together in a situation where there is no law, and it's every day it's a struggle to survive.
Right.
And it was really good game. Really good storytelling on that one too, from the you going next door to the old lady's apartment.
Yeah, that was
Some
good.
good stuff.
The game started out really, really well, and then when we picked it up again, I think in some ways it devolved.
Well, it's because I think it was the group of players.
It was because
that
of
we
the
had.
players, yeah.
And I'm not saying they're bad players. They just, I don't think
There were too
understood-
many, and it was too disorganized, and a lot of them were LARPers, and were not really. We're kind of new to the tabletop idea,
Yeah.
so I think some of them had a hard time grasping some
They were
concepts that you need.
Yeah, I
in
think
tabletop.
they were failing to grasp the idea of what I was trying to run story wise too. I don't think
Yeah.
they grasped what I was going for, as far as they were trying to play a zombie survival game that was like the Romero stuff, or just cheesy
Right.
zombie
Zombieland
survival
kinda.
guide and Zombieland and that kind of stuff. And that's not what I was going for. I was going for something much, much darker. Like I was thinking, really, the way I wanted to run the story was the television version of The Walking Dead might have been too light. Like HBO's version of The Walking Dead was what I was going for. So Evelyn, can you think of any time you've experienced power struggles in games?
The one that really comes to mind for me, and this was almost more of a player-to-player power struggle than a character-to-character. A friend of mine ran an Eberron game, which was a lot of fun. We ran very briefly, unfortunately, because of the other person's issues. The GM's significant other thought that she should be the center of attention and the focus. So she got really pissed when I was made the ship captain,
Right.
and the setting became my ship.
Right.
So we spent a lot of time, her character and my character, battling back and forth. I would give a directive, she would disobey. We almost got killed one day because she decided she was going to go pick a fight that I told her not to. And it got so bad that we finally just stopped playing because no one was having fun.
Yeah.
Which
Brandon?
is a shame,
That's a
'cause-
nice segue into another subject that we have coming up in the show.
Into the two other sections we have coming up in the show.
Oh,
Do you have any power struggle stories, Brendan?
None really that I can really think of right offhand. I know with that latest Pathfinder game that you were running tabletop for us, it looked like there was some power struggle developing between Laura's character and Derek's. a
Yeah,
bit,
there
and
was some trouble
definitely-
brewing.
There was definitely some conflict growing a little bit between me
know.
and Derek's character.
It's because Derek's character was a bit of a dick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There-
I was new to the group. My character didn't no.
I don't know if I would say
Just go stand
power
over
struggle for me, at least, because I hadn't intended my character to be any kind of leader in any fashion. But
Yeah, I would say
but Derek's
definite
character was so
conflict.
much of a dick; it was hard to deal with.
Yeah. I foresee
Which talking to Derek was like, I had not meant him to be that much of a dick. He just kind of went that way.
Yeah.
So he was, when we decided not to play that anymore, he was like, that's probably not. That's probably not really that bad of.
Yeah,
thing,
I think that's
because
part of the
he wasn't
reason
sure
why
what he
the
was going
game-
to do with that character anymore.
I think it's part of the reason why that game failed, though, is because I don't think anybody was really feeling. I think the characters
Yeah.
were getting away from some of the players, and I think it
Yep.
just wasn't. It wasn't
Yeah.
really a very fun game.
I don't know. I asked, was like, I the only player that was actually having fun playing this game because I enjoyed it.
I was
I was-
excited to play the new character that I'd written up, though.
Yeah, and it's not something I wouldn't be opposed to going back to. I just with the time constraints and everything
Yeah.
else, and then
Yeah,
with Star
playing
Wars
other
having
games.
come out, I'd rather play Star Wars
Yeah.
than Pathfinder anyway. I'd rather play Star Wars than any fantasy game really, other than L5R.
Yeah.
But
Or 7C. Good game.
with a good GM, I have a hard time running 7th Sea because I get
You're a little too
really
dark.
dark.
You're just a little too dark.
Little.
It's more of a fantasy swashbuckling, lighthearted, and
Yeah.
while there can definitely be good dark periods of it.
Yeah, it's fun. I could give it another try at some point in the future, but it's not going to be until we get farther, to the point in the Star Wars game where I'm ready to call it.
Yeah. Well, I'd rather. I think we're all having enough fun with the Star Wars game
Oh,
that we'd
yeah.
probably
The Star Wars
rather
game is
play
actually the
that
most fun
right
I've been
now
having
anyways.
in tabletopping in a long time.
Thought there might be a little bit of a conflict with Ev and Derek's characters when they're like, we've got this Sith character. We should just throw her out the
No.
airlock, or no,
Yeah,
we,
yeah.
we at least need to put her into an escape pod, or
Yeah, I thought
there
about.
still could be a little bit of something brewing there between.
I think Kellis and Rhea are eventually we're gonna come to a head.
Yeah.
There's gonna hit a point where my squishy morals and his firm morals are not going to be friends anymore.
that could happen with us too.
You're just quieter.
Mm-hmm.
You don't
Well-
you don't really protest when I do things like, or when I say things like, let's just throw the Sith in the airlock and let her go.
You
Well-
might not actually mean it.
Oh, I meant it.
Yeah.
If Kellis had not kind of growled at me at that point, I was all for putting the bitch in the airlock.
Yeah.
Toss me an escape pod.
I was like, well, my character is there right now, and I'm supposed to be watching out and protecting the Jedi characters. So until my either commission comes up and I decide not to re-enlist and hire on as muscle for the smuggler or something like that, I kind of gotta side with them at least a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So with all that said, we can segue pretty quickly since we're kind of running out of time. You talked about problem players,
Mhm.
and we can actually roll that one into one of the other ones, which is a lot of times the problem players are the GM's significant other. This does happen
A lot.
far more often than it needs to. So, without offending anybody, if you can, describe a situation other than the one you've already done for everybody that has been a significant problem. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a significant other. It could be
As I said before,
targeted other.
Yeah.
It's not someone that is the game master's significant other. It's just someone that he is interested in having be
Or
their
she.
significant-
Although it's almost
Well,
always
it's not
he.
always. It's not always with the. Well, the one thing that comes to my mind is doesn't actually happen between a GM and player, but like I remember when I was dating Ed, we played a lot of role-playing games, and my characters never ever got into any relationships with Ed's characters because
hated
Ed
that.
always
He hated
played
it. Oh.
characters that didn't make any sense for my character to be interested in.
Right.
And I know he hated that. That's why that Conan game, I was fine. I was like, all right, I'm gonna have an interest in Ed's character because, and then Brandon.
Yes.
What was the situation? All right, so we were at like a tavern or something like that, and there was drinking, and there was like, you know, my character and Ed's character were like,
Flirting.
you know, getting flirty and everything, and that was when you had said
Oh, wow.
that because Red hadn't slept with any PCs.
Right. The only person in my campaign who had yet to just throw it at somebody else. Because it's Conan. You throw it at everybody. It's, hey, look, an orc. I kill it. I sleep with these three women who they were watching me do it. Da, 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 da.
So you had proclaimed that whatever PC slept with Red first was going to get like an extra feat.
No, I
or
said
something.
whoever sleeps with Red first gets an extra
Okay.
feat.
All right. Okay.
Gets a free feat.
Oh, that's right. Because that was before I slept with Conan, like actual Conan.
Because Conan got the feat.
Yeah, unfortunately, being the power gamer that I am, like, you know what? If I'm not getting that feat, no one else is. An NPC can have it. So, like, okay, they're there, and I'm like, I've got this narcotic lotus leaf powder stuff.
Black Lotus. Stygian. The best.
So I decide that, you know what? And it was completely... Well, not completely, but it was almost completely a player-driven, not character-driven. Which actually,
Brandon was being a problem player.
But it makes for an awesome story.
It was like
So-
great. It was
so I go over and I can't remember if Red had gone to do something briefly or what, but I spiked Ed's drink with the lotus, and he started wigging out, hallucinating big time.
I think I remember Red ended up taking Ed's character to bed and like tucking him into bed.
yes.
And,
Aw.
Yep.
and was it the same night that Conan came along?
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
Because Brandon started macking on you. I'm like, all right, I gotta stop this. Brandon was doing something wrong. He knew he shouldn't have done it. So here's an alternative to.
I was totally good
Rhaethor.
with that, though.
Yeah.
I felt bad about the situation with Ed, but the fact that Red goes and sleeps with
Conan.
what was it? What was the character that was like
Aemar
Aemar
the
the
Lion.
Lion?
It was Aemar
yeah.
the Lion. Yeah, it was his.
Yeah,
Aemar.
that was pretty fantastic.
I liked
Too
this.
funny.
I liked the Conan game a lot because you guys kept encountering Conan in his different forms. So it was Aemar the Lion and I can't remember the other characters' names I used of his, but essentially it was early Conan, middle Conan, seafaring Conan, and then eventually it would have been later Conan where he's King Conan. I'm a huge fan of the Conan books. I love Robert E. Howard stuff, and that's where it probably should have stopped. Although, to be fair, the Robert Jordan stuff is actually pretty good. And the DeCamp, whatever his name was, is not bad either. Comp de Sprague. So I can think of some definite times where I, as a GM, have made the mistake of allowing a significant other to get things they shouldn't have done. Mostly, it was way earlier on. It really didn't become a problem after. I learned my lessons early on, I should say. When I was still dating Jeanette, I gave her characters a lot more power and authority and a lot more center of attention writing than I should have, because I don't think she was good. She was a good role player. It was a lot of fun, and the stories turned out really good. But the way I do it now is I ebb and flow on who's doing the more stuff in the game. Whoever's being more proactive in the game is the one who gets more story. But at the time, I wasn't doing that. And Brandon was way more proactive. So I should have been giving Brandon more story. I should have been giving Jamie more story, and I wasn't. And I think that it hindered me as a storyteller and gave, I think, too much to her. I've learned since then, though, and now
Any specific game that you're
it was the
thinking of
D&D, the old D&D game. If you think about I can't remember what character she was playing, but
Epsy?
Epsy Paddlin, yeah, that's right.
Crazy memory.
Hey, I remember her last name, and I remember why her name was Epsy. Do you?
Because it was Pepsi.
Yes,
something.
a Pepsi can.
Epsi.
Nice.
Yeah, it was Epsy Paddlin. I did remember her last name. I just didn't say
say
her
it,
last
right.
name.
Yeah, I don't remember the other characters that were in that either. Do you remember the name of the dragon character? The NPC that I made.
The
He was a gold dragon transmuted. Bad story. I went way crazy high fantasy storytelling. It was pretty crazy.
That one.
But
I
that
just
was
remember the other players for the most part.
yeah.
Well,
I'd know if I
Jamie
heard their
and-
name.
That was when I was playing Darwin, Darshore, Darksbane III,
Right.
and or just Darwin for short. You know what? And Jamie.
No, you say the whole thing every time.
No, Epsy, you say the whole thing. No,
Yes,
No need for the
Every
mister.
yes, Epsy, you say the whole thing. Yes, Epsy, every time. It's like a Tribe Called Quest. Say the whole thing. Anyway.
Jamie was playing Pullman.
Right. Pullmat the Backbiter. After he got the name after killing Josh. Being the first PC kill by a PC ever in my game. So that's a problem player. Jamie was a problem player. No, he wasn't, but no.
Ed was a problem player.
Josh was a problem player early on.
Sometimes. Most of the time.
Matt Hill was a problem player for a little while. He had a very he was fine in D&D, but in the L5R game, well, he was fine with the D&D games I was in with him. The L5R game we started playing with him about 2 years ago. He had a very D&D mindset.
Yeah.
And it was a definitive problem for the I think it was a definitive problem because I think he was making it harder for the other players in the group to be able to really get into their characters because he was so hack and slash and not getting into it. He was kind of just avoiding anything setting related.
I didn't really find that to be too much of a problem because it was mostly on his own character.
Yeah.
But I've been playing L5R long enough that I have an easier time getting into characters than
Right.
maybe some of the
Well, probably more
players.
than almost anybody else. I mean, because you and I have been playing L5R since it came out pretty much.
Yeah.
But he evolved as a player, and one of the ways to deal with problem players that I have found anyway is to encourage them and sometimes throw some story at them, throw some actual difficult decision-making storytelling at them, rather than what they want. Like one of the ways that I've always run L5R is if a player's having a hard time with something, I just force that on them, and it works in L5R because the only thing you can do is fight it and die, or deal with it and better yourself as a player and as a character. I think that really helped Matt, and it's a good way to deal with a lot of problem players.
Yeah.
So, well, there's a lot more we can talk about in this thread of things, but we're actually running out of time today, which is good because that means we got something we talk about in another show.
Sure.
We're going to do a little bit of reorganizing our first season here because we're going to change a couple episodes around a little bit, and so I hope everything goes good there. I hope people are enjoying the show so far. Season 2 is actually going to have a lot of changes in it too, so we'll preview some of those in a special episode after the season ends. But there's only 4 more episodes left
Yeah, I think
for
so.
this season. We may narrow that down to 3 more episodes, but it's probably going to be 4 more episodes. I know there's been a long delay between this episode and the last episode. We're hoping that we should be able to get the next episode out a lot quicker because we might record it even today. So you might get 2 episodes not in one day, but recorded in one day. So the news is going to be like a week old. So
Actually, no, it won't because this news was already a week old.
oh, okay,
Because I had this
okay,
cut for last week.
okay.
So we'll
yeah.
get new news tonight.
New news tonight. New news. The news. Good news, everyone.
New news, everyone.
New news, everyone. Yes. So with that, we want to thank everybody that's come out today, Brandon, Laura, and Evelyn. So we also want to thank our sponsors for this week's show, Selkie Smooth, which can be found at
www.selkiesmooth.com.
and Brown Coat Photography, which can be found at
Brown Coat Photo on Twitter and Brown Coat Photography on Facebook.
And we also want to make sure I want to give a special thanks actually to the guys from Grand Con, who we went to their show a couple weeks ago. It's actually one of the reasons we missed recording one week. They put on a good show. It was a lot of fun. They out in Grand Rapids, Michigan. We hope you come out to our show, which is Geek Fan Expo, which is going to be just under a year from now on September 5th, 6th, and 7th, 2014 at the Doubletree Hotel in Dearborn, Michigan. You can find out more online at geekfanexpo.com. We're going to have some stuff to announce probably this week, maybe next week, as far as guests and things like that. Not necessarily guests, but events that we're going to have going on at the show. Guests we're going to wait a little bit longer on. There should be some major updates for that come around sometime around November 7th. So we'll do a special episode for that for you guys. Because I believe this series... Oh, no, I think we'll have one more episode after that because we're pushed back so far now.
Yeah.
So anyways, I guess I don't have much else to do today. I just want to thank everybody, and hopefully we will see you again soon in our next recorded episode, and we'll get things out on time again. I know we're running behind on stuff, but we're about 3 episodes behind right now, so we'll catch up. So, all right, with all that from me and everybody here, so long, and thanks for all the fish. You've been listening to The Quest. I'm your host, Jeff Harvey, and you can follow me on Twitter at IRNerdivore. Don't forget about our friends at www.geekfanexpo.com, and for all of our friends here in the studio and all of our guests, we want to say so long and thanks for all the fish.
Baby, please don't go. Baby, please don't go. Baby, please don't go back to New Orleans. You know it hurts me so. Baby, I'm way down here. You know I'm way down here. Baby, I'm way down.